All right, so here we go. So now we're going to use those literal equations to make, so working some diagrams, working some word problems. All right, so starting off with problem 1. So we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So in this situation, we know that this side x, I'm going to say equals the a rad 2 side. So that means that a is x over rad 2. So if that side's x, this is x over rad 2, and this is x over rad 2. And the idea is that, based on that being x, everything gets a little bit thrown off. So we're not going to have the x rad 2. We have the x over rad 2, x over rad 2, x. And it does line up in the exact same idea. So problem A says, what's the length of AB? Well, it's x over rad 2. But as we know, we can't leave it like that. So we get x rad 2 over 2. Area formula. B. Base times height. Base times height all over 2. So if I multiply across the situation, I got x squared over 2 over 2, which gives me x squared over 4. So the area in this situation is x squared over 4. Perimeter, we add the 3 sides. So we have x rad 2 plus x rad 2 plus x. Common denominator, x becomes x rad 2 over x rad 2. This gives us 2x plus x rad 2 over rad 2. And so, is that acceptable? Well, if we separate this, let's just rationalize the whole thing. Not acceptable. So we got 2 rad 2x plus 2x over 2, which gives us rad 2x plus x. And that is our perimeter. All right, so these would be a lot easier if we were just given numbers, but we have to go with what we have. The first problem, I think the hardest part of the first problem is that I'm just calling this x a rad 2. So really, the setup is a rad 2. But since there's an x in the a rad 2 spot, I solve for a, and a equals x over rad 2 in these situations. That's what makes that one a little bit strange. I express the area of a circle as a function of its circumference. Express the area of a circle as a function of its circumference. Well, area equals pi r squared. So the question is circumference. Circumference equals pi diameter. So circumference equals 2 pi r. Now the only thing I can plug into here is r. So I have to set this up so this is an r equals, so I can plug this in over there. So if I divide by that, r equals circumference over 2 pi. I can now plug this in. So area equals pi times c over 2 pi squared. Right, doing a little bit of math here. Pi over c squared 4 pi squared. Simplify that out. Circumference squared over 4 pi is our area. Alright, so it's weird, but all we're really doing is just manipulating formulas, constantly manipulating, plugging in, simplifying, manipulating, plugging in, simplifying. This is going to happen over and over and over and over again throughout these problems. Okay, an open top box with a square base is to be constructed from sheet metal in such a way that the completed box is made of 2 meters square sheet metal. Express the volume of the box as a function of the base width. So what that is saying is our final equation has to be something like volume equals and only W's. Right? Only W's in numbers. So we know that in this situation, since we have a square base, that the length is also W. So our volume formula is length times width times height, but in this problem it's width times height, which gives us width squared times height. So what's the issue? What's the issue here in this situation? We gotta get rid of the h. Alright, so the volume is gonna have this formula. Gotta get rid of the h. But we are looking at surface area. They took a piece of metal and they broke that metal down. Alright, so they took that piece of metal and they broke that piece of metal down. So our surface area problem is 2 times the area of the base plus height times perimeter of the base. So we have 2w squared plus height times 4w. Now, what else is key? They told us the surface area is 2. Right, so now, if I subtract things over, 2 minus 2w squared equals 4hw. I divide by 4w, so now I have h equals 2 minus 2 squared over 4w. Perfect. Now I have it set it up where I have an h equation that I could plug in there. So volume equals w squared times 2 minus 2w squared over 4w. A little simplifying here. Cancel that w. Give me 1w up top. 2w minus 2w squared over 4, which in this situation wait a second, where did I mess something up? 2 minus I see my error. Got my error. It's an open box top. So that 2 is gone. That 2 is gone. That 2 is gone. That 2 is gone. Alright, let me fix this. 2 minus w squared over 4w. 2 minus w squared over 4w. Get rid of that 2 again. And that leaves me with that. So the key error I thought about, I was looking at it and I thought it had a top on it. So the fact that it didn't have a top on it, the formula is surface area equals area of the base plus height times perimeter. We don't have that 2. So that was a slight error that I made. Alright, but in the end, the key thing, I made a volume formula as far as I can make it. Then, since I can't have h, I had to make a new h formula so that I could plug in and have a formula volume equals with only w, and you could always have numbers. So that's what we're looking at here. Alright, let's look at 6. The height of a cylinder is twice the diameter. Okay, so that's key. Height of the cylinder is twice the diameter. Express the total surface area as a function of height. So we're going to have surface area and we're going to have h only. That's key. Alright, so our surface area formula, as we see right there, is 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. So that means in this situation, I need to plug in for the r's. And they can only be h's here. Alright, so, you know what? H equals 2d. Diameter is 2 radii. So h equals 4 radii. H over 4 equals r. There's my key thing. I made an r equals equation to sub in. So I have 2 pi times h over 4 times h plus 2 pi h over 4 squared. Alright, so on this left side, cancel, cancel. So I got h squared pi over 2 plus 2 pi times h squared over 16, h squared pi over 2 plus h squared pi over 8. Now I could take this even further. I can go common denominator here. So if I want to get them both over 8 times 4 over 4, that gives me 4 h squared pi plus 1 h squared pi, 5 h squared pi over 8. And that is my surface area formula dealing with only h and numbers. 7. A pile of sands in the shape of a cone with a diameter that's twice its height. Diameter again equals 2h. Express the volume in h only. Okay, so I gotta get rid of the r. Right, so diameter equals 2 height. 2 radius equals 2 height. R equals h. Right, the radius is the same thing as height. Volume equals, instead of r squared, I got h squared times h over 3. Volume equals pi h cubed over 3. Done. Volume formula equal to h and numbers. What do we got on this back page? Surface area. Alright, a box with a square base has surface area of 3 square meters. Express the volume of a box as a function of width. Alright, so in this situation, this box has a top, square base. That is also width. So surface area equals 2 times w squared plus height times 4w. Express the volume, which is length times width times height, which is in this case w squared h, in function of width. So we need a w equals equation. We need an h equals equation because we want just w's. Okay, so key thing, surface area is 3. 2 pi w squared plus 4hw. Subtract that over. Divide by 4w. H equals 3 minus 2w squared over 4w. Alright, now I can plug in. So I got volume equals w squared times 3 minus 2 w squared over 4w. Simplify, cancel, cancel. Volume equals 3w minus 2w cubed over 4. I'll do 9. Open top box. Square base, so the length is also the width. Volume of 6 cubic meters. Express the surface area of the box as a function of width. So volume equals length times width times height. Volume equals w squared h. 6 equals w squared h. Alright, surface area. We don't have a top, so just area of the base, which is w squared, not times 2, plus height times 4w. There's our surface area formula, because we don't have the top. Now we want our equation to be just w's, so we gotta make this an h equals 6 over w squared equals h. Plug in. W squared plus 6 over w squared times 4w equals surface area. Surface area equals w squared plus 24 over w. That's our final answer. What's this last one? A stone is thrown into a lake, and T seconds after the splash, the diameter of the circle of ripples in t meters. Translation: the number of seconds that pass is equal to the number of meters of the circle. Express circumference of the circle as a function of time. The number of seconds that pass equals the number of meters of the circle. Alright, key thing. Seconds equals diameter. So part A, circumference equals pi times diameter. Circumference equals pi times time. So if it's 5 seconds, the diameter is 5 meters. 10 seconds, the diameter is 10 meters. Express the area of the circle as a function of time. So pi area equals pi r squared. Well, if the seconds equals diameter, the seconds equals 2r. Alright, so r equals 2 over the seconds, which in this case we're saying r is 2 over time. So a equals pi times 2 over t squared. Area equals pi times 4 over t squared. Hold on. I knew I'd flip that up. Flipped it up there. It's flipped. So r equals s over 2. Time over 2. I flipped those. Alright, so I got, in this situation, I'm saying t over t squared, t over 4, pi times t over 4 equals our area. All good. Hopefully that helps. So the key thing is you always just have to set this up so that you only have an equation with the given variable and numbers. So take your time, set things up, work things around, solve for different letters, plug in and simplify. That's how we do this every single time.